All right, so I'm Marc Glaeser. I'm the Director of Technology at Walbridge. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk with y'all. I don't have a dedicated slide for me or for Walbridge, so I'll give you the quick spiel. Walbridge, we are a 109-year-old company based out of Detroit, Michigan. Primarily, we are the largest automotive contractor based on the ENR lists in the nation. We do work in Mexico, United States, Canada with partners like Elaston, and we have a dedicated Mexico office. And we do work all over the country, but again, centrally located, headquartered out of Detroit. For myself, Director of Technology, I'm focused on bringing in new tech. It's what's on the horizon, what's interesting, what's useful and new to us as a company, and how can we get value out of it. So I get to have a lot of fun with what I do. And cmBuilder has been part of that. It's been one of the easier implementations that we've had to do. We are under a year into it. We signed an agreement at the end of last year. So still pretty new to it as a company, but we're already starting to see a lot of value, and I'm excited to share the journey. Come on. Oh, it's moving the one of the slides, but it's not moving it on here. Yeah, so while that's going, a little bit more about myself. Again, living in Detroit, been there since I've been with Walbridge for about a year. My wife and I have 2 little kids, 2 big dogs, and a cat that runs the house. And yeah, we'd like to get outside with the girls, take them to the park, take them running around. Yeah.
There you go.
Enough about that. So the general hypothesis that we have around planning is, visual is better. We can make it more reliable, more durable, get people on the same page when they can see what they're doing versus looking at a Gantt chart, looking at a diagram. That's not spatial. It's not representative of what we're actually going to be building. So where we are right now with our planning tools, obviously we've got our P6 schedules, our Microsoft project schedules, our Gantt charts. Contractually required, we got to do them, whether we like it or not. And there's some drawbacks to this. We don't get into a very high level of detail with these. The spatial requirement, it's based on work breakdown structure, so you can't really see, okay, this line correlates to this section of the building. The other tools we have, we're a big proponent of the last planner system, pole planning. We use a tool called Hoilu. For anybody who's interested, feel free to come ask me about that. And they do a really good job. Again, it's not truly spatial. We've got our swim lanes, which again can be representative of a space in the building, but you can't see, okay, my 23C1 Commons, where is that in the building? I need a plan to be able to see that. But we're starting to get into more detail. We're starting to be at the project, at the foreman level, at the superintendent level, and getting a lot more reliable planning using this tool. So we augment that with something we call V-plans. It's just visual planning, which I've seen a lot of these from other presenters, literally just marking up a PDF saying, hey, here's going to be the sequence of work, here's our zone breakdown, here's how we're thinking about this, just from a 2D perspective. And this can be an interior plan, facade plan, utilities, whatever it is. But we normally end up with a lot of these, and now we're getting into 3 different planning tools that are all disconnected. So we've got our master schedule that has a certain set of data. We've got our pole planning, which isn't communicating and pushing data back and forth to the master schedule, and then we've got these disconnected PDFs. So we're maintaining all of these in 3 different places. It's a lot of work. And even with these, we're only seeing so much of the information. Yes, it's spatial, but it's focused on one floor, certain scopes. We're not seeing the whole picture just by looking at this one sheet. So what do we want this to look like? What is the desired state that we want to get to? We want something that is dynamic. We can see the progression. We can see how everything interfaces together, connected to the schedule, so we don't have to keep updating it in multiple places. And it's easy to share with whoever we need to. It's got all the relevant scopes, anybody who we want to talk to in it. So cmBuilder has gotten us farther along that journey. We appreciate the tool that you've built, and I'll get into some of the use cases and case studies behind it. So the first one is going to be University of Michigan Center of Innovation. This is actually in downtown Detroit. Very interesting building, 6 stories. The whole building, and you'll see this when I pull up the visual, the structural columns in a lot of it are in fact tilted. That's not a mistake, that's just how it's designed. And that's leading to some interesting sequencing that we need to figure out from the structural side of things. It's, how do we put all this together? How does this go together? If I'm giving a set of Lego instructions, what do I need to do first in order for this thing to be self-supporting? We also had a couple other twists in this particular project. So we had a very experienced superintendent coming in, low-tech guy, but super smart. He's building this thing in his head. The challenge is, how does he communicate his vision out to the rest of the team? He's coming into this kind of partway through the project. So we had another superintendent kind of getting us out of the ground, getting us into the pit, and then he's coming in and he's looking at the plan. He's saying, this isn't going to work. We need to figure out something else for this. So we've got this big push over a few weeks to say, hey, we need to develop a new schedule, get this to the client, and make sure that we're validated and we're all on the same page so that we can have a good plan moving forward. And by the way, this guy likes to do his schedules in Microsoft Word. Which was an interesting challenge, and it's not just one Word document, it's multiple Word documents. Each one of these is from a different document for, one for concrete, one for steel, one for facade, one for whatever it is. So definitely, not the most tech-savvy guy. Really smart, there's a lot of good content in here, and what we were able to do is take this along with the schedule, which we frankly had to kind of throw out the window to start this, and then some of the V-plans and how the trades and some of the people were thinking about it, and say, okay, let's combine this into cmBuilder and let's see what this looks like. How is this actually going to come together? And we did that over a few iterations. So the first one here, we've got, here's kind of the basis of the building. We've got 3 shear towers. He's pouring the shear towers, and we're going to do the steel and then the decking, and we've already got a problem. Concrete guy says, no, that's not how we bought the project. We bought it with climbing scaffold. We're going to go up the shear towers. So doing the steel first, right after we do the shear towers, that doesn't work. So we need to have those shear towers go up first. Okay, we rework the schedule. That one's not good. So next week, have another meeting, sit down with all the trades. We've got his Word docs. We've got this visualization playing. We're looking over it. We're starting to play, and we got another problem. Said, okay, the steel here that's tilted, as I mentioned earlier, spans over. There's like a main entryway kind of running through this corridor of the building. So that tilt, we need to be able to support that all the way over to this shear wall structurally for that to stand. And steel guys looking at this flag and they're like, hey, that doesn't work. I can't build it that way. Okay, so let's think about it a little more. Let's iterate, go back next week, make some changes. Again, changes in Word that we're then pulling into cmBuilder. We're on to week 3. So we're playing along, we're getting farther along, things are looking better. We're getting further up in the building, and we got another issue. Say, okay, well, we're trying to put in this concrete pour here on level 3, but we can't do that because of how the steel is designed. We need to have steel installed up to level 6, supported onto that shear wall, before we can pour concrete above level 3. Okay, good feedback. And all of this is coming out of organic conversation and seeing this, seeing the animation. As we went week to week to week, we started to rely on this animation more and more. And the trades were really bought into it, and they started to see the value behind it, which was amazing. I love to see that process, and that led us to our final animation, which if you go search for this project and you find it on University of Michigan's website, they've got a portion of that website that has a webcam of the project, and right below that is a slowed down version of this animation. So we, ultimately we were able to give the client what they needed, which was a reliable schedule based on feedback from the subs, based on what we needed to deliver to them, and they were bought into it. They loved this thing and said, hey, we want this, we want to put it on our website. So obviously that visual format, it's giving us better feedback, more timely feedback. If something's up on the wall, people are going to be able to come to a solution much quicker than if they're all off in their silos working on their own computer. So we're getting it up on the wall. We're letting people see this is the problem, this is the solution, this is where we're at. How do we move forward? And they're getting better buy-in, and we're seeing how they all interface together. The primary two trades there were steel and concrete. We were starting to bring in MEP. We were starting to bring in other trades, facade, later on down the line, and seeing a lot of value there. So next one, we have a similar problem to Walbridge and some of the other contractors, where we can't talk about all of our clients, but we can share some of our stuff. This one we kind of jumped in later in the project. Steel's already up, and they're starting to do facade work. They're starting to do underground work around the building, and we've got, again, disparate tools. We've got a master schedule. We've got a pole planning tool. We've got all of these V plans that have dates on them. We're trying to keep this all in sync and just understand, okay, what are we actually building to? What is our source of truth? And again, saying, okay, let's consolidate in cmBuilder, see what that looks like. Again, here's our multiple, I had to blur out some stuff here, apologies. But here's our multiple plans. We've got, 2 different utility plans. We've got our facade plan for 2 different buildings. We've got our structural component, bridge coming in between 2 buildings. And that led us to, instead of all of those disparate plans, we have this, which now we're seeing all of our utilities going in. We're seeing our facade crews working around the building. We're seeing where we've got foundation, structural erection going on all at the same time. And I'll let this play through. But then we're starting to identify stuff like this. Hey, I've got my facade crew working here on the north side of the building. I've got storm drain going in at the same time, and we're doing the foundations for the bridge between the 2 buildings. It's a problem. That doesn't work. We need to figure out something else. Down here, same thing. Facade crew. We've already got some utilities in here, but we've got the steel erection and the facade crew going at the same time. Here we've got, on all of these, it's facade crew and underground utilities going in at the same time. So hey, maybe we need to get a little bit more granular in our planning. Maybe we need to focus in on, okay, this section that's close up to the building, how do we enable our facade crews to then work through that? So again, it just becomes very easy in this visual to spatial method to see, okay, this is the consequence of this action. This is how the consequence of the plan that we've developed, and maybe we need to think of something different. So again, just made it very easy to view. The superintendent said, hey, I wish we had started this sooner. I wish I would have had this a month ago. It would have been helping me with the issues that I'm running into right now. So they're seeing the value. They're getting the buy-in from just a little bit of work up front to get their source of truth and put that into a format that's easy for them to understand. So again, we're new to to cmBuilder as a company. A couple of lessons I've learned just from trying to implement it over the past however many months. Get involved with the team early. The second project that I showed there was a prime example of that. Hey, we got in, we proved some value, but if we had gotten in early on in the project, what else could we have done? What else could we have helped with? What headache could we have helped them avoid down the line had we gotten in a little bit earlier? And all this work, this was primarily me. I'm starting to find the champions and do the handoff, but for anybody who hasn't really implemented cmBuilder here, I don't think there's many of y'all out there, but you need to put in some of the work to get people to see the value, and then listen and iterate. Just like on the first project, hey, this is the feedback we're getting over multiple weeks, multiple iterations, multiple meetings. This is where we ended up. That's all I had.